Rugby with Pads. I'm your host, Sam, and today we're going back to doing something a little bit different. And I say going back, we're going to start this year of talking about our team breakdowns and our tier lists. You know, everyone does a tier list. I want to do it different. This is going to be the thing that forms your hopefully evolving picture, and I'm going to give a bit of insight into how I look at things in terms of how you value all your players here. I have subscribed to tier-based drafting for a good few years now. You can see on the screen here, it's not, you know, A through S, and it's all the equivalent. I like to do tiers based on the value that they provide and the tier breaks that you're going to see as well. So you'll see here, we'll talk about stuff, and we'll get into the rhythm of it, and so you'll understand how it is, and I'll give you a context of where I see the position of each player looking like this year, their opportunity, their previous performance is going to be taken into account, and generally how I see them play, and my vibes as well. So your tiers are going to be different to our tiers, but we're going to be doing this division by division, and we are going to start off with one of the strongest divisions in football, whether it be the strongest division in fantasy. We're starting off with the AFC North. If any of you are watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see I have all the depth charts available here, and let's start with who I will always forever pick as my Super Bowl favorite, the Baltimore Ravens. And let's look at their depth chart. And you know what? Let's go for an easy layup, shall we? Someone who I think is a generational talent and who will be amazing at football this year and be amazing at fantasy. You have Lamar Jackson, and this is going to be the easiest layup of my podcasting career. Lamar Jackson as the number one, the QB1, the generational talent. Of course, yes, he won't be there every week, but over the course of the season, he will give you more QB1 finishes than I believe anyone else. Yes, you've got Josh Allen in there. Yes, you've got Jalen Hurts with a better floor potentially. Mahomes could do something. Burrow could have a season like last year, but Lamar is the guy, and that's it. And I think the conversation around the Baltimore Ravens happens from him. Lamar gets you that generational quarterback number because he can not only do crazy things with his arm, but also crazy things with his feet as well. We have all seen how lightning quick he is, and the run game, the play action game that they play in Baltimore is so effective because you have so many different players who can support that as well. Before it was Mark Andrews getting involved there, but these days, and this is going to be my next layup, it's going to be the very obvious, and I'm not going to call him a game changer, but I'm going to call him a running back one workhorse. This is someone who in your lineup is going to get you a huge amount of points, is not going to be involved in the passing game, but does it matter? No, it doesn't. But Derrick Henry is going as my number one running back so far on the list as well, especially for you know, I think he may well be the best one in the NFC, in the AFC North as well. There are so many players who you want to target when it comes to running backs. Obviously, you want the likes of Saquon, etc. Saquon, CMC if he's healthy, all of that. But I think Derrick Henry has something that not many of the others do, and it's that second level ability to continue to break tackles. Yes, he doesn't have the passing game available to him, but he does have a very dynamic running game that is unlocked by Lamar Jackson. So those two go head to head. The rest of the picture is a bit murky, and we'll start off with wide receivers. So in the wide receiver room, yeah, and obviously you would suspect, I've got a strong quarterback. Of course, I'm going to have a strong wide receiver room. I don't think that's necessarily what we're going to see in Baltimore here. The tiers we've got here are elite hands, locked in wide receiver one, league winner, which is someone who I think can perform up to a wide receiver one level, who maybe is being dismissed as that. Flex, so that's in your flex spot in a 2-receiver league, sleeper, and someone who we're going to ignore. I don't think we have anyone in the top three tiers here. Now let's look at the lineup here. Yes, this is preseason, so there's a lot of players who won't make the roster, but the kind of key guys: Zay Flower, Rashad Bateman, who I think has got a bit of money recently, DeAndre Hopkins, is he a bit washed potentially, and there's a cast of other players there who I really don't see as even being handcuffs here. These guys are going to get cut ridiculously, and I don't think any of them have league winner value. I think if any of them, they're going to have some flex games effectively. Zay Flowers, I think, is still the number one. He's the one who's shown the most consistency and remains in there. So I think I'm going to put him in that flex value spot. But that's about as far as I can do it. I think we've all tried to get involved with the Rashard Bateman hype before. If there is a reduced number of targets out there anyway, he's going to be fighting between himself, Zay Flowers, DeAndre Hopkins, and the tight ends as well. I can't see him as being anything but ignored in my view here. He doesn't have the big-bodied abilities that other players have. So, Rashard Bateman, I think you're going to go largely undrafted, especially in my leagues anyway, unless something crazy happens over the preseason, and we get that kind of preseason double hype that sometimes does pop up. I'm going to put DeAndre Hopkins as a sleeper, though. DeAndre Hopkins, yes, he's a bit old now. I think he's probably getting towards 32. Let's have a quick look how old DeAndre Hopkins is. But this might be his age 32 season. He's actually age 33. This will be his age 34 season. Last few years have not been the best, potentially. I'm trying to think where he's been. Houston, obviously, he was dynamic. The first couple of years, Arizona, then suffered with injuries. Didn't really make it work in Tennessee in the same way. And you can see he hasn't hit double-digit touchdowns for a very long time, although he hasn't played double-digit games for consistently. 17 games in Tennessee was his last full season. 1,057 yards, 7 touchdowns. That would be great. I don't think he can get that because the last 3 years he's had 6 games, 1 touchdown, 173, 10 games, 437 for 4, 16, and it's not great looking here. And I really. Yeah. Oh, sorry. That was over an entire season. So last season, sorry, he did play 16 games, five touchdowns there. But does that make him a good value above Zay Flowers? I think Zay Flowers has a much better floor, which is probably where you're looking at here. I am going to put him as a sleeper though, because he is still a big-bodied guy. If you look at him, he is. How junky is he? I don't know. He's in pounds, but that's probably 215, probably 185. He's about 6'2". He's not a small guy. He's going to be a red zone threat as well, and that's where he made a lot of his work early in his career. So Hopkins, as being that contested catch guy, if he's still got it, he's definitely a sleeper. He might be a very value pick because everyone's going to be looking towards Zay Flowers, but I think where you're actually looking at the pass catchers in this group here, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely pose an interesting conversation here. Mark Andrews isn't washed. Yeah, you heard it first. Mark Andrews is not washed. He is a big dude, and his stats have been fantastic year on year. Even last year, 11 touchdowns. I know it wasn't a huge amount. He reduced receptions on a game-by-game basis. Only 69 targets compared to 2022, where he got 113, 673 yards. But he is still a fantasy darling here. Could he be a league winner? Yeah, with those touchdown percentages, very much so. Do I think there's going to be a regression to the mean? Yes, I do. Isaiah Likely, if we look at him, the same thing. He had a couple of breakout games last year. I think that's really it that we saw him. But he is significantly younger. 25 compared to Mark Andrews at now 29. I think they see him as the cheaper alternative. His main ability is his availability, and in those games he's had some multiple touchdown games as well. 6 touchdowns last year. He's been relatively consistent, and you can kind of see him being trusted more and more in the offense. Do I think either of these hit wide receiver 1 upside, which is what you really want out of a tight end? Can he see that pass catcher or league winner? Probably. And I think you could make an argument for either one of these being a league winner. But what I'm going to put here, because of draft position and ADP, that's going to be a factor here. I'm going to put Isaiah Likely in my league winner, and Mark Andrews is going to get slept upon. But I don't think to the point that you would want to draft him. So I am actually going to, unless you have him in a dynasty league already, I'm talking redraft here. I think I'm going to ignore Mark Andrews because I just don't think the production I'm not going to ignore him. I'm going to put him as a sleeper. This is probably a bit of an unfair thing. I'm going to add another column in here. I'm already changing this up. This is flex value. He's got some flex value potentially to him. I think Isaiah Likely might have that, and I think towards the end of the season, that's where you might be looking at Isaiah Likely here. But for the time being, I'm putting Mark Andrews as flex value. So the Ravens, an interesting position here. Could you get position one player out of any of these? Of course you could. You probably will do for Henry and Lamar, that they will almost definitely perform up to billing. Isaiah Likely, I think, is the most interesting prospect out of a lot of them. Zay Flowers, could he ever break out and actually score touchdowns? There's other players here that I would want to talk about, but Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, Rasheen Ali as a handcuff, I'm ignoring all of them. I don't think any of them really have it. Do we like Patrick Ricard? No, I think he plays too much on the line. And it's an interesting prospect. And for these guys, I think Lamar and King Henry have standalone value. I don't think they need to pass to each other, or you need to look at that stack. Maybe if you had the Lamar and Hopkins stack, that could be interesting because for the touchdown, doubling down on that kind of thing, that would be the only one I would call out of that grouping there, however. Okay, moving on. There are 4 teams we've got to take on here. So let's take on the next team. And the next team is, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati are interesting in general. They are Joe Burrow's vehicle for success. And I think you've seen that happen. I'm going to skip over. I was going to go to Browns first, but I'll go to Bengals. You've seen that in the offseason. With them investing so heavily in Chase and T. Higgins, giving them the weapons. Do I think they're going to be piss poor on defense? Yes, I do. Unless they get Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson actually signed and playing, it's a bit dangerous. And even still, they've lost Jermaine Pratt, their lead tackler from last year. And you might think, Sam, why this is fantasy football? We're talking about offensive players. Game script is so important. Because I think it actually plays into advantage of them if they're playing from behind, not for the running game, but definitely for the passing game. And you'll see why I hear. I think Joe Burrow just misses out on that generational talent. He is generational. I'm not going to get that, but these are the guys who you put in there and are going to win you weeks. He is, in my opinion, a locked-in QB1. And I don't think anyone can deny that. Look at his stats from last year, like nearly 50 touchdowns or something stupid like that. Absolutely fantastic. We will skip to the wide receivers, and you know what? I think it's a relatively easy positioning here. Jamar Chase is probably your number 1 pick in 1 QB leagues. Full stop. I then think T. Higgins is not a locked-in wide receiver 1, but he is very much, based on the volume alone and the type of targets and the type of receptions he's going to receive, T. Higgins is way up in there. Do I think any of the guys behind him have any ability to break out? I don't think there are enough passes to go around to make that happen. Even in the tight end room. Mike Gesicki was great for the Dolphins. He has not been since. Let's take a look at his stats, actually, because Mike Gesicki is an interesting one to talk about, because I always see him get traded for at the start of the season in Dynasty. 29 years old. He is a big chunky dude, as you would expect. In Miami, had some great numbers in later years, but never, I didn't realize this, never has gone above 6 touchdowns, and that's only once. But 570 yards, 703, 780, 362, and 5 touchdowns. You can see that was a bit of a breaky year. But he is always available. 17, 15, 16 games. Even in New England when he was sharing reps with Hunter Henry. God, that was around. Yeah. He came in last year. He didn't make a huge impact. He had a lot of targets. He had a lot of yards. I think that is consistency there. Do I think he has a league winner status? No, I don't. He's not my ideal pick for a tight end 1, but the tight end pool is very thin, and we'll kind of, when we get to the end of this, you'll kind of see how thin some of these are. Could he break out? I don't think so. I don't think he's really shown the ability to do that. Will he give you a game or two? Yes, he will. He is flex value, in my opinion. He's a tight end too, kind of range, and that's where he will stay. The interesting position here is the position of running back. Chase Brown, Zach Moss, Samaje Perine, Taj Brooks. We're only going to talk about Chase Brown. Chase Brown broke out last year. Was he a rookie? Or was that breakout? I don't know. But he's 25. He's an older dude. He's had 2 seasons in the league, 179 yards on a kind of rookie season game, no touchdowns. Last year exploded, 16 games, 229 carries, 990 yards, just missed out on 1,000. Shame for him there. And in the receiving game, he also got another 4 touchdowns with 360 yards. I don't know where his ADP now lands, and I'm not going to judge it on that at the moment. But he has the potential to get even better. He is a bit of an older back, but I don't think he's got the miles on him that you'd be worried about. When he was given the ball, obviously he shared at the start of the season with a bit of Zach Moss. I think he broke out completely. He is a small-bodied, big dude, and he is great, surprisingly good in the pass-catching game again. 54 receptions on 65 targets. That's impressive for 60.7 a clip. Average 4.3 yards a carry as well. Those are running back 1 numbers. That's weird saying that. Do I think he'll be a running back 1? Probably not. I think there is too much talent ahead of him, but I am going to put him in the potential league winner category here. And if you had him as your running back 2, I think he'd be really, really happy. The Cleveland Browns are possibly the worst team, in my opinion, in football currently, because who the hell is playing? I am going to not even put any of their quarterbacks in here. I'm going to put them down as streamers because that's as best I can get here. So I'm going to put all QBs. Yeah. Who's going to start? I personally think we'll get a camp battle and Joe Flacco will come out on top. And sometime during the season, because of pressure otherwise, Shedeur Sanders will eventually play a few reps, play a few games, and then they'll see what happens next year when they probably have the number 1 pick. Again, at running back, it's an equally difficult situation. Jerome Ford doesn't do anything for me. Quinshon Judkins doesn't really do anything for me. He's at best a flex value in a deeper league, but at worst he's a handcuff. I'm putting Quinshon here, so I'm putting Quinshon as a handcuff for the time being, because if Jerome was to go away, then you start getting a bit of a different look here. But I'm putting Jerome Ford as ignored. It's just not a good team here. And even I'll go down to the next level because he was drafted this year. Dylan Sampson as well. Just not players, and Pierre Strong as well. Just not players that I've got any interest. Any interest in taking on. The wide receivers, however, are an interesting bunch. Cedric Tillman had a mini breakout last year that I quite enjoyed. Jerry Jeudy had a bit of a career resurgence. Do I think either of them are league winners? Probably not, but if either of them are, it's going to be Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman, that bigger bodied guy, 197, 6'4", let's call it, I think, maybe 6'5", has never had the best success overall, and his stats probably show that as well. He's only been in the league 2 seasons. Last year had a mini breakout towards the end with 3 touchdowns, and he impressed in some of those games. Do I think he could become something more? Yes. Do I think he's let down massively by the by the quarterback situation? Also yes. So he's probably someone that I'm actually going to ignore as well. And likewise, Jerry Jeudy, I think, if anything, I might upgrade them to sleepers. But Jerry Jeudy, I think, as the number 1 target, has a bit of flex value here. But that's about all I'm going to put him there. I do think Cedric Tillman could be something. And everyone else, I'm just forgetting about here. Deontay, is he even going to be on the team? I don't know if he actually turned up for training camp or anything like that, or will turn up for training camp. Big question marks there. David Njoku in the tight end position, yeah, he's got flex value. That's it. Maybe a little bit of a sleeper, depending on the quarterback, though. But, you know, I'm going to put him as a sleeper because it all depends on the quarterbacks. This is just not a good lineup, and it all comes down to the most important position. If you don't have a good QB, you don't have a good running game. If you don't have a good running game, you can't play action. If you don't have play action, you can't get good wide receivers, and you definitely can't get your tight end involved. The tight end might be the one I'm maybe slightly more buoyant on because he is insanely talented in himself, and tight ends can often be seen as the escape route. But either way, this is not a pretty team. Finally, we'll look at the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Aaron Rodgers is not a league winner. He is a former shadow of himself, and after everything, he is down there at late value. I don't think he's got any of the physical capabilities to do anything more than just be a late value guy. He's a QB 2-in-1. Yeah, he's going to be in that 16 to 20 range probably, but not because of his talent. I think because of the talent around him. And you look at the wide receiver room, and it is DK Metcalf. That's it. Yes, I think he's going to get enough volume so to put him into the locked-in wide receiver 1 position, but he's a low end of that. He's a rock. He's steady. He's going to have decent. I think he will end up getting decent chemistry with him. He's a big body receiver. We know what he does: jump balls, streaks, all that fun stuff. Do I think he's enough to have elite hands and get into that territory? No, I don't. I think he's going to be in that 13 to 20 range. Robert Woods, as I see him here. He's ignored for me, unfortunately. I just think, unfortunately, Bobby Trees, I would love to say you've got more here. I don't think you do. Scotty Miller, again, I'm ignoring all of these names. Roman Wilson, he's never managed to break out. The one exception to this team, who I think is probably the locked-in wide receiver 2, if we really think about it, is Calvin Austin. I'm picking up quite a bit of him because I do think he is. Yeah, they need more than one target, and with them potentially seeing Pat Fryermuth being injured as well, and maybe bringing in what's his name, Jonnu Smith. Be interested to see the way the tight end position goes, but. Again, I'm going to do a lot of this. Look at the tight ends here. Darnell Washington is ignored. He's just not that guy. They brought him in to be a big guy. He's an inline blocker. Pat Fryermuth, I think, does have flex value. Could he be a league winner? I think he's on that borderline here. I'm probably going to put him in a bit higher just based on value alone. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been known to target his tight ends, but this is not just his system, and I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic how him and Tomlin work to build a system around them. The final position, obviously, for the Steelers to consider, they've lost Najee Harris, but they still retain Jaylen Warren, who is a fantastic pass catcher, is a third down guy. I think, though, your value where you want it is probably in the handcuff position, and looking at Caleb Johnson there. Yes, I'm putting him down as a handcuff tier, and that's where you want to kind of get him, because you want to get him if Jaylen Warren falls out, but you're not happy if you've got Jaylen Warren, really. I'm putting him in there because of the pass catching ability, and there's going to be vacant targets from the wide receiver room. But that's about it. And you know what? Looking back, guys, just to summarize this up, despite thinking about the AFC North being one of the toughest divisions in football, in fantasy, it's a very different pick here. At QB, I'll break it down via position. You've got Lamar as a generational talent here. I think no one doubts that. You've got Joe Burrow just missing out on that top 5, locked in QB1 here. I don't have any kind of league winners with potential. Aaron Rodgers has a lot of late value. I think he's more solid than people think. And the Browns QBs, just avoid them like the plague. There are no game-changing running backs here, and yes, you could argue King Henry is game-changing. I think his lack of passing is there, and there is potentially a regression to the mean when it comes to touchdowns. He got so many touchdowns last year. Chase Brown, I think, is a potential league winner over in Bengals world there, so that he's someone I'll target. You're not happy if you've got Jalen Warren, but he's fine for a flex value, QB3 kind of range here. But you've got some interesting follow-up quarterbacks coming in the rookie draft. Quinton Judkins was amazing in college. Caleb Johnson was, I think, looked down upon a little bit, and I think the combine process hurt his draft stock a little bit, so maybe he's being undervalued. I think he could be a very easy candidate for that sleeper breakout handcuff position. Something goes wrong and he takes to the backfield and does what Chase Brown did last year. Jerome Ford, Dylan Sampson, Pierre Strong, not interested in them. I'm not interested in any other backup QBs, running backs for Baltimore. The wide receiver, yes, you obviously have Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is definitely a league winner with potential to be as good, if not better, as well. DK Metcalf, volume alone, is going to be your locked-in wide receiver. You're not too excited if you get Zay Flowers or Jerry Jeudy, but I think they serve a purpose in that kind of wide receiver 3 range. You have some sleepers, though. I think Hopkins, based on potential for touchdowns. Cedric Tillman, hoping that he can do well if he gets the right pass-catching situation. Calvin Austin is a volume-based conversation. And, who else are they going to throw it to? They've got to find someone. But I'm ignoring people like Rashad Bateman, Deontay Johnson, Woods, Scotty Miller, Roman Wilson. They are just not interesting to me. And any other Bengals wide receivers, not named Jamar or T. At tight ends, there is... where this used to be a hotbed for wide receiver type talent and tight end community, I don't think it's there anymore. Isaiah Likely is my best bet for one like that who could push out that. Freiermuth is maybe there on a volume basis, but I think Mark Andrews is going to be in steady decline because he's not going to get there's going to be a regression to the mean when it comes to touchdowns. Gesicki never has really gotten to that position where he's got enough touchdowns to be as relevant. I think we get excited by his talent and the off-season side of things, but it never really makes it in the season. And Joku, I think, is a sleeper. Again, I think that's largely QB dependent, and we're ignoring pretty much everyone else. And I've singled out Washington because he was a disappointing pickup of mine in one of my rookie drafts a couple of seasons ago. And that is your lot, guys. Hopefully you enjoy this kind of concept. I'm going to go through all of the other divisions as well. There's a lot more to go through. Let me know what you think in the comments, all that fun stuff. If you like this, please like, share, and subscribe. All that fun stuff, YouTube-y type things. If you want to support the pod, at Rugby with Pads on all of the socials, etc. And you can support the pod with a membership as well at www.rugbywithpads.com. Rugbywithpads.com. I almost forgot my own URL there. But it goes without saying, thank you so much for listening. If you listen this far, really appreciate you. That's the best thing you can do is listen to the pod. Really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon. John Gridiron.